Hi everyone, my name is Lillian Conger, and today I'll be talking about the power of do nows. I conducted this research project under the guidance of Dr. Maglio. So here's a little bit about me. I graduated from Truman State University with a degree in interdisciplinary studies, and I will be earning my master's very soon. I currently teach fourth grade in a very tiny rural community. I would not have it any other way. The population of this town is about 140, and I just love education, love my students, love anything to do with it. One of the biggest challenges I see in my classroom and many other classrooms that I've been in, I see a lot of struggle with quickly recalling basic math facts. This isn't just a small issue. Failure to develop automatic fact recall early on can really snowball into bigger challenges later, like long division and fractions. When kids don't have this fluency, it slows down their problem solving. It makes math feel super overwhelming as they move on. I think we have all been in that situation where we're sitting down in the kitchen table and working on math with our parent, and it's just getting extremely frustrating. On top of that, we're also losing a lot of instructional time due to daily disruptions, such as late arrivals, announcements, absences, behavior issues, and more. According to Education Week, students lose around 25% of their learning time, which is really scary as a teacher, knowing that fact. That time really adds up and makes it even harder for them to build those essential math skills. So, how can we help students get better at math without losing even more teaching time? My idea is to use a consistent, low stress routine that gives students quick, repetitive daily practice. That's where the do now comes in. A do now is a short, silent activity that students can immediately do. It also prevents those social distractions from carrying over into your learning time. I think we've all been there when you tell your students to do something, and as they're going to get that book out or going to get that folder out, they're having a conversation with their neighbor. So, like I said, a do now is a short, focused task students complete at the very beginning of the class or as you're transitioning. In my project, the specific do now was a 5-minute spiral math review since I'm doing math facts. My hypothesis was that students who do this every day consistently will show better fact fluency than those who don't. So, my big research question was, how does daily practice of math facts impact fourth grade students' fluency? I actually got these do now worksheets from another fourth grade teacher on Teachers Pay Teachers. I was going to make my own, but then I was worried about biases. Each spiral has about 8 questions, and we did 4 questions a day. They roughly got about I would say about 7, 8 minutes, sometimes 10, depending on which spiral we were working on. But what really was appealing to me was that they covered 3 specific Missouri standards that really focused on those basic math facts. So they covered anything from measurement conversions to multi-step problem solving and interpreting remainders. Here are some pictures of the actual do nows my students used. These were printed as packets, so it went from 6 to 10, and we kept everything very consistent to build that routine. So they kept it in their stay at school folder, pulled it out every time that math started. The second math started, they got to it. Gave them about 7 to 10 minutes. Like I said, I didn't keep track of that time, but that's roughly how much they got. And then we went over it after. My research was quantitative. I tracked growth using timed quizzes and performance on the do nows. My project was also action research, which I feel like went really well with my project, especially for the classroom based studies like this one. I used pre-tests, daily do nows, and a post-test to measure progress. My sample group was 10 students with a wide range of academic levels throughout all of them. And my project also used the drill and practice theory, which is the idea that repeated exposure helps students recall information quickly and accurately, which is key for the fact fluency. So that graph right there kind of lays out that theory pretty well. You have a problem, you get a student response, which would be the do now. You get the feedback by seeing how much they got right, what they got wrong, what you need to target, um, whether it's correct or incorrect. Then you work on the next one and you repeat. So here's a little day in the life of what my fourth grade classroom looked like while we did this project. I gave a pretest first. The average score was about a 5.7 out of 17. I will say too that this was done towards the beginning of the year. I want to say like end of November, December area. And then the next day after that pretest, we began the do now routine for 10 school days using the spiral 6 through 10, which added up to about 40 questions total for the whole project. I had one other point to make and I forgot about, so I'll get to it. The reason I really wanted to do a pretest was one, to see that growth, but then also to make sure that this do now was not going to be too easy for them, which I knew it wouldn't, but just in case, that way I had that data. The post-test score averaged, the post-test score average jumped to 11.2 out of 17. I was not expecting that much of an improvement, to be completely honest. I didn't think it would make that big of an impact. They kept the packets in their folders, like I mentioned previously, pulled them out each day as soon as we started that transition, and got it started as soon as math began. And they just knew like clockwork to do that. I didn't even have to tell them, they just knew how to do it on demand. Most students improved, which is awesome. Like I said, I was not expecting that much of a growth. Some had more consistent growth than others, but the overall trend was positive. The routine worked especially well for those students who benefit from structure and repetition, which is almost all my students. But some of those students did need additional practice time and support to reach their full potential. Yeah. So, a few students showed an improvement of 3 points. One student experienced a 1 point decrease from spiral 6 to 10. Could have done more spirals to make sure they were continuously growing. I just wanted to do those spirals 6 through 10 for this specific project. We did continue this after I saw that it was working so well. I still use it in my classroom every day, not only for math, but also ELA now. Here are the spiral averages. So spiral 6 was 3.6 out of 8 questions correct. Spiral 7, 4.1 out of 8 questions. Spiral 8, 4.7 out of 8 questions. Spiral 9, 4.6. Spiral 10, 4.6. All out of 8 points total. Here is a perfect example of a student's learning growth. You can look at a couple of these questions, but we'll specifically target number 4. It is an area question, and the student got it wrong on the first spiral. And then by the end of the last spiral, it had a repeated question with different numbers, and they got it correct. So it was just really awesome to see. You'll see that this student in particular got about 5 questions wrong on the first one, and then by the second or by the last one, only got one question wrong, and it was the last, so maybe they didn't have as much time to do it. Here's a visual of their growth. You can really see how the daily practice led to gains in fluency over time. Spiral 6 was low. We were just getting started. Spiral 7 got higher. Spiral 8 got even higher. And then it kind of leveled out and stayed consistent from there. But I wonder if I had changed it up more or just continued on, seeing how much growth we got after that. But like I said, wanted to keep it semi-simple just because it was a lot of papers, a lot of data, a lot to do for my first year teaching. As most projects do, there are limitations in my research. This was a small sample size, so it may not reflect the same results on larger groups. I really wanted to use all 16 of my students and expected to do that, but because of sickness, a couple of students moving, absences, other factors, I couldn't use all my students as data. Otherwise, it was going to kind of skew it and just mess it all up. In the future, I'd like to explore whether doing do nows in the morning versus in the afternoon makes a difference, or if maybe I should give them a specific set amount of time to keep it even more consistent, giving them 10 minutes. And if we're done early, we're done early. Yeah, so a couple things that I'd like to continue to do and will be doing throughout probably my whole education career, but specifically have continued to do it so far this year. So here's what we know. Students are struggling with math facts and math fluency, and we lose a lot of instructional time during transitions. But we can fix this by having a do now ready to go right when students walk in or switch subjects, whatever it may be. We reduce wasted time and get right to learning. I might have one of my biggest pet peeves might be like getting a bunch of phone calls, there being a ton of announcements, student disruptions, and this do now has changed the game for me and my classroom and my students way more than I ever thought it would. I remember doing a do now in math every single day, and I never realized how much time we saved by doing a do now in math class in high school every day. He got us right on track as soon as we walked in versus sitting down, having conversation, things like that. And I notice those things when we do other subjects such as science and social studies where I don't have a do now yet. But there's some conversations that definitely happen while we're transitioning. Research shows that this kind of routine with a do now can save us 5 to 10 minutes per class per day, which is huge across a school year. There's so much we need to teach these kids and get them ready for the next year, math testing or whatever it may be. And so for me, like seeing that I could save 5 to 10 minutes a day was a game changer. Here are the sources I use to support my research. And that's the end. I want to thank you so much for listening to me. I am really proud of how this small change made a big difference in my classroom, and I'm super excited to keep building on it and changing it up. So let me know if you have any questions. You can email me. Thank you so much.